Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Piro. Welcome to Campus 101 exam series. Today we're going to be looking at ecology. And I can as well tell you that ecology is a recurring topic in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, for every year, we've seen ecology come out about 5 times out of 10 times. So it's a very important topic that you're going to watch out for. Fortunately, ecology is not as complex as the other parts of biology. So what we're going to be looking at here most of the time is going to be definitions. We need to get terms clear in ecology. So the first thing I'm going to say is I defined ecology already for us as what? Ecology is the study of. So let's start with the first part of the definition. So ecology is the study of living things and their environment. So it's a study of living things and their environment. Alright, so living things and the environment, this is ecology. So the study of living things and their environment. And I can tell you now that these living things, alright, these living things are the members that are the biotic components of an ecosystem. Alright, so ecology is the study of living things and their environment. Alright, so another thing that you're going to hear often is they'll ask you, what is an ecosystem? So an ecosystem is a compilation of both the living and the non-living things, in an environment. They're just playing around words. So ecology is the study of living things and their environment. Now, for the living things, you are going to know that the members of an ecosystem can either be producers, all right? They can be consumers, or they can be decomposers. Alright, so if you are in an ecosystem, you are either a producer, so you are either making food for us, for example, plants who make food via photosynthesis, or you are a consumer, like most of the animals in the ecosystem. And don't forget, your consumers can be consumed. Alright, so you are either a producer, a consumer, or a decomposer. Decomposers are a very important part of the ecosystem, but most people overlook them. These guys are. Some of them, we refer to them as the scum of the earth. These are the ones that always stay down there. Your worms, the insects down there, the bacteria that break down when all the stitching and all the big animals, they're eating the plants, and then the animals die and the plants die. These decomposers break down the dead organisms and return the nutrients back to the soil, back to the ecosystem. So they're a very important member of the ecosystem. So producers, consumers, decomposers. So these are the members of an ecosystem. Now the environment. The environment of an ecosystem can be divided into some parts too. So we have the aquatic. When you hear aquatic, just think of what? Water. So the environment can be water, the environment can be earth, land, and here we call it what? Terrestrial. Terrestrial. Don't mind my spelling. And then if it's not aquatic or terrestrial, then it can be arboreal. Arboreal means in the sky. Alright, and then the fourth part of the environment is the subterrestrial. So those people that live underground, alright, so subterrestrial, terrestrial. My new spelling is weird. Alright, so again, the environment can either be in the sea, so aquatic, terrestrial, on land, arboreal, in the sky, in trees, and subterrestrial, under the ground. So this gives us a tree diagram of ecology. Next thing I want to define for us so that we get our bearing right is a niche. What is a niche? What is a niche? Alright, so it's a very important definition we need to know. A niche, alright, is the micro environment of an organism. Alright, so if this is an organism, say a plant, this immediate environment of the organism where it finds, where it lives, reproduces, and successfully is the niche of that organism. Alright, so now that we've gotten the tree diagram, we need to define some. I told you we're going to do a lot of definition. So I want us to look at this term here, population. So bring it out here. So what is a population? What is a population? A population is a group of similar organisms living together in an environment. So if I have 10 goats living together in the forest, they become what? A population. So a group of similar organisms of the same species that live together in an environment forms a population. All right, so that's a population. Now, a community is important to note the difference between community and population. All right, so a community is a group of organisms of different species that live together in an environment. Don't forget, population are the same species, but in community there are different species of organisms that are living together in the same environment. All right, so a population and a community, obviously you know that communities are bigger than populations, since communities involve different populations together. A community is different species living together in an environment. A population is same species living together in an environment. So in a species, here we can have goats, sheep, cattle, etc. living together within an environment. So that is what a community is. The next part of ecology that I want us to look at, which is not that I want us to look at, which is very important for our exam, is what we refer to as biological relationships. All right, so we've looked at population. Now I want us to look at biological relationships. All right, are you with me? Are you with me? Reply. Exactly. Stop sleeping and stop swiping. Pay attention. This is a very important part of our exam. So we're going to be looking at biological relationships. Biological relationships. Now, biological relationships are when organisms of different species work together to aid their own survival. All right, so that's what a biological relationship means. It must involve two organisms, and it has to do with the survival of this organism. So two organisms and survival. So what types of biological relationship exists within the ecosystem? The first one, which everybody should know, is what exactly? Parasitism. So parasitism. The next one, which is related but not exactly the same, is commensalism. The last and the best is what? Symbiotism. Alright, so symbiotism. Now let's look at them one after the other and get a very clear meaning of them, and then probably have examples. So what is parasitism? What is parasitism? That word is derived from the word parasite. So a parasite is an organism that lives on another organism, getting nutrients, protection, and other advantages at the detriment of the other organism. So a parasite is an organism that lives on an organism, getting nutrients, protection, and other advantages. Alright? Getting nutrients and other advantages at the detriment of the other organism. A very bad example of a parasite is what? Ticks and dogs. Ticks and dogs. Now, if you have ever seen a tick and a dog, the relationship is appalling. The tick literally sucks the blood off the dog and lives within the fur of the dog. And you know what the dog gains? Absolutely nothing. So this is a very bad example of parasitism. Now, we should never be parasites. Parasites are bad. Alright? So, but it's a type of biological relationship within the ecosystem. The next type of relationship within the ecosystem I want us to be aware about is commensalism. Now, in commensalism, the relationship is not that bad. Commensalism. Alright? So, commensal, and then I need to tell you that in every biological relationship there is a host, which is the organism that is given. Alright? And then, so in a parasitic relationship, there's a parasite who is gaining, and then there's a host who is losing. Alright? In commensalism, the case is not exactly the same, but it's related. Now, in commensalism, there's a host. Alright? This host is neither losing, is not losing. Alright, so it doesn't lose and it doesn't gain. Alright, so no loss, no gain by the host. But the commensal, alright, the other guy that's living on the host is gaining. All right, so it's gaining something. Now, a very good example of commensals